Hi, I'm Steven from BGcast.
And this is Diana from Transcending Ascension.
And
this is Esoteric Caravan.
Well, thanks for joining us again on our ride today, guys. We have an amazing conversation. We've actually been discussing a little bit before this, but we're talking about the alignment of ego and higher self. So if you joined us yesterday, one of the things we were talking about is how we are moving into a new spiritual perspective. And we are now leaving the old spiritual escapist perspective in the dust, which is the spiritual perspective of old, which is we have to leave society. We have to go away and leave society and go to the mountains and meditate and escape society in order to ascend. But like we were saying yesterday, it's time to transmute and transform and bring the spiritual into society. So Diana, I'm going to have you start it off because we just saw an awesome news. Of course, in case you guys don't know, we are Rick and Morty fans. We love Rick and Morty. We think there's a lot of hidden goodness in that show. And season 9 has just come out. And we were watching an episode, was season 9, episode 2. Where Rick actually puts himself under a forced amnesia so he could take a vacation from himself. It's very interesting. So Diana, why don't you start it off for us on the huge symbolism that's behind this?
Yes, so you see Rick forgetting who he is, the soul coming to earth, forgetting who we are. And then that ego persona picking up a life, creating a life, and thinking it's real. And it's not to say the people in his life are important and he knows them, but it's not the totality of who he is. Now, just like us at a spiritual awakening, we get these memos that, whoa, we are someone else. We are someone more. We are someone bigger. Just like Ted, who that's the personality Rick takes on, is actually Rick. And through this journey you watch, because Ted refuses to become Rick again, yet on his journey of refusing to become Rick again, he basically becomes Rick again because he is as intelligent as Rick always was. This Ted, this ego that's been created so Rick can be separate from Rick, thinks that it knows better, acts like it knows better, but uses the intelligence from the higher self to try to further separate it from the higher self. And that just sounds right there like sort of like a satanic path, because you can be in a satanic path without it being, murderously evil looking, because a satanic path is a path that worships just the ego, where you want to make your ego first and foremost the most important thing there's ever been. And that's exactly what Rick was doing as Ted. But the moment Ted becomes Rick again, there's no change. Morty's like, oh, did it work? And Rick's just like, yep, and sort of sounds a little embarrassed and wanders off with his head down because he made a big deal out of nothing. His ego made a big deal out of nothing, thinking that he was going to be erased or removed when he became Rick again, when that's not how it works. Rick, his higher self, even told him he's going to remember existing once he transforms back into Rick. But Ted won't accept this, not until life becomes so miserable living as Ted that he goes, F it, and hits the button to become Rick again. And literally no change is made. And that's how it is with us when we're in our alchemical process and we're refusing to give in and listen to that higher self. We still find, no matter what, at the end of the day, when we learn those ego lessons, like, wow, we should have just done it sooner. It was for our better good. We are better off to listen to that higher self, to have our ego align with that higher self, because like to what Stephen was saying earlier about spiritual escapism, it's not just the monks in the monastery anymore. It's like the whole toxic positivity thing we see everywhere, where toxically positive natures is really just hiding the ego away from change, keeping the ego in a superior position away from change. But the ego just simply needs to realize, like, nobody's out to get it. It's not going anywhere. We can't remove it even if we wanted to, and you're only hurting yourself by trying. Simply realize the ego only needs to assimilate into the higher self. It already is the higher self, like Ted and Rick. Ted was the illusion. Your name is an illusion and it's all wonderful and fine. It's part of your higher self, so it's not going to go anywhere when you open up to that higher self. It's just going to, like the word assimilate, but in yourself. When you make all your parts assimilate and you become an aligned being of one self, that's the only time you want to be able to assimilate, is when it's within the self. Be one inside one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And kind of to your note on the toxic positivity thing, that's good you brought that up, because we're going to have to borrow a good old quote from our friend Carl Jung. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Exactly. So the toxic positivity is another form of the spiritual escapism that we have to try to override and avoid. I've talked about this on my show multiple times, and how we have to find the balance between being our biggest cheerleader and our biggest critic. Everything is always a balance, and that's something we've talked about. You know, the one thing I'm sure a lot of you have realized on your spiritual evolution is the answers to all of these bigger questions, and is within the middle path. Okay, it is always never sways in any end of the polarity spectrum. It is never too much of one thing or too much of another. It always ends up in the middle, and the answer can have many layers. It's not just one particular answer, and this is how it works. But ultimately, yes, it's about finding that balance. And the whole cool thing about Rick in that instance is you can see the aspects of Rick coming through Ted. Ted doesn't even understand why he's able to build this technology. It's just coming out of him. You know what I mean? It's just being channeled from Rick, who is his higher self in this instance. And we've seen this happen with ourselves in our spiritual evolution as well. It's interesting because in the beginning, we all kind of fought with the higher self. You know, we all kind of fought with it coming through, whether it be due to cognitive dissonance, whether we were afraid of standing in this world in our authentic light, be out of the fear of losing our quote-unquote friends or people that we thought were friends at the time. We've even lost family members. But ultimately, we've seen that what happens when we do stand, we assimilate that ego into our higher self, and have them work together as opposed against each other. Many beautiful and magnificent things happen to us. People come to love us even on a deeper level. The people who truly matter are the ones that stay around. It's almost as if the divine helps weed out all of the unnecessary noise and opens us a straight pathway and a channel to assimilating further on our conscious evolution. And you know, one of the things that I actually want to bring up in this topic too is something I've been diving in on, and Diana has actually really enjoyed it too, is how having our hormones balanced is actually a really good way to help the ego assimilate with the higher self. And of course, we're going to kind of get through the bare basic thing of it, as well as keeping our hormones balanced on a physical level. But there's actually a system within our body that a lot of you probably know about, the serotonin system. And that, I feel, is going to play a huge part in our awakening too. And of course, keeping our hormones balanced. So, you know, we want to stay away from environmental things, environmental toxins, pollution. We want to stay away from like fragrance products, because fragrance products are endocrine disruptors. They disrupt the endocrine system. We want to drink very clean, healthy living water. We want to eat very clean, healthy foods. We want to exercise, take care of ourselves. That is because, at least in my eyes, and I know Diana probably agrees a little bit, if the physical body is not in good health, the mind and the spirit cannot flourish to the extent that they are supposed to. But now, even diving into the serotonin system, the serotonin system is very interesting, guys. I'm sure a lot of you avid psychonauts out there who have experimented with psychedelic substances, and whether it be in recreational or ceremonial settings, understands that these are serotogenic agonists, right? So the serotogenic agonists, these psychedelics work on our serotonin system. Very interesting enough, though, about our serotonin system is it actually modulates how we experience and how we perceive our physical reality. It actually works with our endogenous dimethyltryptamine to modulate physical perception and to filter out things that would be too, I guess you could say, sensorily intense. I just even made that word up. I'm not sure if that's even a word, but screw it.
It's a word, but yeah, it's a term.
We're gonna roll with it. But but so, and what's interesting too about the serotonin system is it regulates our memories, imprints, emotional imprints, right? We know we ascend and we develop and we evolve through emotional imprints. Okay, so for instance, you guys, a lot of us have been through a severe darkness in this world, and that pushed us towards the light. Okay, yes, not everybody had their awakening or their realization that way. I know there's people who just simply thought there's more to this world.
Well, it built the backbones for it, though. Every trauma they went through, even if they didn't wake up then and there, built the backbone for what they can use now as their structure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so essentially the emotional imprinting is what helps our soul evolve, and that's what the serotonin system is involved in. It's also involved in us operating in this world through fine motor skills, through learning movement. Okay, it also even regulates our moods, and we know that mood is part of the conscious experience. It's part of that soul imprinting that helps with that evolution. It's responsible for happiness, anger, all of these different things that we experience in this existence. And what's very interesting about these psychedelics as well, and the serotonin system, is so all psychedelic drugs are serotonin analogs, right? So they all have the backbone of serotonin. And that's what's amazing about it. But see, the even cooler thing is these psychedelic compounds can actually access very deep intracellular serotonin receptors in the neocortex of our brain that our own endogenous serotonin cannot even get to, because the psychedelic compounds are lipophilic, meaning they can move, lipophilic, they can move through fats way easier than our endogenous serotonin can. So this opens up a lot of different questions here. So one of the things I've learned about throughout my time in studying this over the course of now almost, we're going on 18 years now. Holy crap, this has been a while for me, of studying this material and on my spiritual and conscious evolution. That DMT, our brains and our bodies actually produce a natural endogenous DMT, which could have very much to do with a new type of hormonal balance that's going to emerge, which is going to assist with us in the assimilation of the ego with the higher self. And something I wanted to bring up even yesterday, it's almost like this. It's not escapism anymore, guys. It's balancing unity consciousness with individual consciousness, that individual subjective focal point. And I want to know your thoughts on that too, Diana.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said before, Barbara Marciniak, who I resonate with deeply, spoke of how our ascension would be done through the hormones. And we know, like, the pituitary gland is one of our main it's situations that we've been learning about to extend ourselves, to bring ourselves higher, to learn more, and to expand ourselves, like opening up that third eye. Well, it's not just a magical thing we're doing when we're opening up that third eye. And a lot of us that consider ourselves starseeds probably came with like that quote unquote awakened third eye. Now, your third eye is how you start seeing visions come forth through your actual perceived vision of your eyeballs. So this is going to be your hormones in the way that Stephen's describing. This is coming through, and we're actually overlaying other dimensions. We're not, like, they're already overlaid on our dimension. That's how this realm works. The higher are on top of us. But when we increase our hormones, when we increase the production of them, start creating new ones that they're going to discover turns out was always there, and now they know how to act it, blah, 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 how the medical system works, because they think they're just newly discovering it. We're evolving. We're evolving in live action time, and the main thing that's evolving with that human in the physical sense is the hormone system and how that runs. So your lymph nodes are also going to be an important factor when you're dealing with this. You want to make sure your lymph nodes are always moving, because they do not move and drain themselves properly, especially if you're a sedentary person. So you want to make sure that you are yoga. That's why yoga is the ultimate spiritual practice, because it keeps that lymphatic system moving. Now, Stephen says, like, if Diana agrees on a healthy body, of course I agree on a healthy body 100%. We just differ on how much muscle is required for that healthy body. But I absolutely do believe you need a 100% healthy body. For me, that's being more like an avatar and being able to just, well, whatever the what I mean, the blue creatures, and being able to move in whatever way I want to move, and being able to do whatever it is I want to do and have no physical limitations with my body. And that's not being too greedy. I'm not one of those people that expect to fly tomorrow. That's fine. Just simply being able to move as much as I want to move for as long as I want to do it. So until the day I die, which if we keep this going the way it's meant to go, that's easily going to be 3 digits, right? Easily. Because we're meant to live to be at least 4 digits, which isn't even that long. Like, that's the hilarious thing with the human. It already was tragically short given the couple thousand years it's supposed to be. But when you shorten it to how it is now, we die as babies, how it is now. That's why do you think humans are so immature and ridiculous? Because they die as babies. They're babies in an atmosphere that doesn't suit their system. And what happens when you stay in the water too long? You start to prune. That's what old people are. They're just babies that pruned because they've been in this atmosphere for so long. We're not actually elderly if we die between 80 to even 120. We're still babies. We need to live thousands of years to actually get to the mature factor that we need. But upgrading these hormones is exactly what's going to start leading to these new discoveries where, guess what? Turns out our telomeres do extend themselves if we do this, that, and the other, right? And I think a lot of that's going to come down to your fascia system inside your body. So again, yoga, stretch that out. That's your, the fungi system of the earth. Your fascia system is like that within your body. It's
very good comparison. I love that. It's very much like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's connecting that neural networks of your entire body, because your brain is just one part. Your consciousness is in your entire body. Each one of your organs is a different personality of you. We talk about having parts. Some of those personalities are coming from your organs, and Chinese medicine has always known this, so it's not brand new, but it's yet another thing that's going to start mixing itself mainstream into our learned behavior and understanding, so that, let's say I'm very, very angry and I don't know why. I've checked my star chart, it doesn't line up. Well, guess what? I probably have a problem with my liver that's going to become cirrhosis of the liver, cancel, nullify, in a couple decades. But if I caught the anger in my 30s, what was going to be my death in my 50s is not going to happen. Same thing with cancers and things like that. Cancer is actually a healing mechanism of your body. Cancer is not the bad guy. The cancer cells, the free radical cells, they get caught together and lumped together, and that's what they end up calling cancer, these lumps. But your body that process of it all lumping together is actually your body trying to save your body. And the medical system comes in and chops that all up, does biopsies, and releases those toxins into your body like you wouldn't believe. And then you wonder why you die a couple years or a couple months after your diagnosis. That's why. Because they shook up a system that was trying to keep you safe. So if you just simply realize my body is overrun with toxins, and that could be mental, emotional, energetic, all ways of thinking and being that we're going to evolve into, we're already evolving into, and this is in our regular day lives. We can still live people lives. We do still need to change and morph society, but we can only do that from the inside.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to circumvent back to what you said. You know, even though you think we need, you think we have disagreements about who needs more muscle mass. You enjoy the muscle mass.
I do enjoy the muscle.
So okay, there you go. So,
but it's not. I wouldn't say it's necessary for your spiritual evolution.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. See, as a divine masculine, and I'm sure a lot of you men out there, and a lot of you women are going to agree with me too when I say this. It's nice for your divine masculine to be a force of nature, to truly embody the wild.
We want a strong heart,
archetype.
A strong heart over strong arms. Strong arms are nice; they're a bonus, but a strong heart
I have both.
is more important. Yes,
what about strong heart and strong arms? Strong heart and strong arms.
Sure,
Why not both? Why not? But nonetheless, just wanted to throw that in there. But the one big thing that Diana's talking about here too, and she's talking about the telomeres and cancer and things like that. One of the things I want to relay to you guys is all of this is already within you. This is why I call this the great remembering. All right, and for those of you who have been with me a while, I always
activating these existing systems.
Activating it, very good, very good. For those of you who have been with me for a while, you guys have always heard me. At first, you awaken, but then you remember. Right, you awaken to the fact that
just like in a dream when you wake up in your bed, sometimes you don't remember who you are for a minute.
Exactly. You awaken and then you remember. So a lot of this stuff, we carry these systems within us. We've had this balance within us before. Okay, even kind of taking into Let's look at these different hormones, things like the sacred secretion, the cerebrospinal fluid,
Christ oil,
yeah. Sun gazing even too, bringing.
I would be careful with sun gazing. I used to promote it, but the sun is extra intense lately, and I've even cooled it. So
yeah, well, of course, safely sun gazing. You're supposed to do it.
It used to be fine, but it really has intensified lately.
You're supposed to do it as the sun is above the horizon, if I believe.
Yeah, sundown, sun up is safer. Sundown,
sun up is safer, but these different hormones that can be released, and one of the biggest things too, and this is why you look at our cerebrospinal fluid, right, and us starting to utilize that. I do believe that is the Christ oil, or a lot of people think the Christ oil is different. There's many different.
Well, the Christos goes all the way up the back of the spine, up the back of the neck, and into your pituitary gland.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
And then Joe Dispenza teaches that. Sarah's even taught us that. Jim Carrey even talked about it once upon a time, a million years ago, before he was a clone.
Exactly. Well, this is the other thing too that before he was a clone. Yeah. No, that's definitely a different conversation for a different time. But
join us tomorrow. Is Jim Carrey is definitely a clone. Not debating it.
Definitely.
And Eminem.
Yeah,
many more probably. Well, all the good ones. If they don't find a way to kill them, if they're too important to us to kill, they'll just make them a clone. If they know it would upset us if they remove them, they make them a clone.
Well, that's the thing. Well, you even go back to the thing with Paul McCartney and the Beatles and him dying in that car accident. They understand how profoundly influential the Beatles were and how they can use them to manipulate culture and society. Yes. So a lot of these big icons that we look up to as a collective are essentially used in a lot of ways to manipulate a culture and society.
Big time. Or they'll take someone's special needs like Britney Spears. Talk about her being a clone. If you actually look at the poor girl, she was probably autistic to begin with, and they just ran her dry because she was always a little simple. So in her case, I think they just ran that poor little girl dry.
Absolutely, but nonetheless, we'll digress and we'll get back. We'll get back to it. But
our hormones,
yes, our hormones. But yeah, no, the Christ, So, and that's one of the biggest things I've worked with in my Kundalini yoga journey. And guys, this is the thing. This stuff. One of the reasons we talk to you about this stuff is it's not complex or highly
It doesn't have to be. You don't need to understand the terms like Steven does. I don't remember the terms, and it doesn't matter. I still have a deep understanding.
Although she loves that I remember all the terms.
It's nice.
She does. She loves that I remember all the terms. So, but no, of course, yes, you can utilize and start to work on these processes of starting to balance your hormonal system. Actually, one of the biggest things that we do in Kundalini Yoga to balance the hormones is the big toe, guys. The big toe is a point for the pituitary and the pineal gland, right? We know that a lot of our hormonal, don't get me wrong, if you're a man, we have hormones that come from the pituitary gland. We have hormones that come from the adrenal glands, and then we have hormones that come from our testes, right? And then women, you guys are very much a similar setup with that, except you have pituitary gland, pineal gland, you have adrenal glands, and you have ovaries.
Well, it's because the ovaries are the testes, for those that don't know better. Everyone's born a girl, and then you turn into a boy, and the ovaries become testes.
Actually, everybody's born a man, then you become a woman. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But very good point. Exactly. So that's where it is. And so, balancing these systems, you have different points all over the body. And that's why I did bring up the major one, because most of the time, if you balance the pituitary and the pineal gland aspects of your hormonal system, a lot of other things are going to follow suit. Those are the main heads. For instance, too, in the men, a good example is the pituitary gland actually puts out forth luteinizing hormone, which actually then travels down to the testes to make testosterone. So mostly you're gonna be calling the balancing of the hormones is going to be mostly up in your pituitary and your pineal.
And men, you should point out how men really much need to focus on this, because the testosterone system is being attacked, and one could argue that's God, which we've debated before, because men kind of got greedy with the patriarchy. Lol. But they are being attacked now, and that I do see, and it's coming from all fronts, even to a divine degree, even with how it's coming through the food. So you really need to be careful, because you're even seeing skinny guys with moobs now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Of course, according to Diana, if you're a man, you cannot be upset. But she's funny, because she's like, you guys have had thousands of years, because every time you've been upset, you've always raped and pillaged. So you're no longer allowed to be upset anymore. You're not allowed. But no, I'm just kidding. I love you. But But nonetheless, no, exactly, guys. Your testosterone is under attack, and honestly, being a divine masculine is having a balanced testosterone too. Like I said,
well, motherhood's being attacked. So, but that's more mental than well, they're getting them. Women being, I think it's a mental telling women that, yeah, I don't even want to say it out loud because I don't want to perpetuate it, but women, you're being lied to, and being a mother is a sacred thing, and you can do whatever you want in life, but you're only going to care about your children.
Absolutely. Well, ultimately, it's all being under attack to a degree, and while yes, both you and I understand that, and this has been a hard pill for a lot of our community to swallow.
Is that the assaults on all fronts, even internally. Like Gaia TV having AI smells suspicion. And the fact that they housed David Wilcock for so long, even after he was insane, that tells you something. I think they're out just for their own grandeur. They don't actually care about our ascension. They do provide people to us that can help us. I'm not saying everyone on their channel is bad. I love tons of people on their channel. However, the channel themselves has shown us their cards.
Absolutely. Also, I completely agree with that, Diana. Also, what I was going to say too is one thing. There's a very hard pill for this community to swallow. A lot of people in our community still try to compartmentalize aspects of this existence into two dualistic boxes.
Good and bad. Yeah,
absolute good and absolute bad. For those of you who are truly in the know,
human can't be absolute.
Human cannot. For those of you who are truly in the know, truly done your work, know that both aspects of the polarity spectrum ultimately serve as creation and our awakening. Now, of course, we want to sway in the polarity of the light. That's where we want to.
You have to, because the human has a proclivity for evil, thanks to the lizard brain. The human is naturally inclined towards evil, and we need to always be aware of that.
Absolutely. But ultimately, this is where we have to understand the darkness and how it pushes us towards light. So, yes, it is under attack. So my biggest tips for men to help with that: stay the hell away from fragrance products. Stay the hell away from fake body sprays.
Deep fried foods.
All
soy products.
Okay. Also, too, guys, this might sound crazy.
Stop jerking off.
Definitely that
the least sexiest thing a man can do ever.
That's for sure. Stop jerking off. Get the lubricating strips off your razors, dude.
That feels unnecessary.
Well, that's an endocrine disruptor too. So, yes, it is. That's why the lubricating strips on razors are endocrine disruptors. You guys want to keep your endocrine system healthy. And as far as women go, what are your tips for that, Diana?
For women, same thing. Fragrances. Essential oils are your best friends. Deodorant. Just get zinc oxide. If you want to be lazy about it. I used to make fancy ones, and they worked. Coconut oil, zinc, and the not fragrance oils, you want essential oils, because I actually got in essential oils, sometimes they'll sell you fragrance oil, so you have to watch and read and make sure it is a true essential oil. And then you want good brands, like I love the brand Now. But Sage, I don't know if America has that. They're very expensive. And then I know the main ones that starts with a D, they're very expensive, but they're supposed to be good. So essential oils you want to use for all your smells. You do not want to use any perfumes. And then deodorant, easy. Coconut oil in the winter will work just fine. If it's summer, zinc oxide, just complete. You don't even need to do anything to it, and it works perfectly well. And you're going to be healed. You're getting some zinc in the process. There's things you can do for your skin that are nourishing. So for moisturizing, I use a bunch of different oils. So jojoba oil, argan oil, just coconut oil, even just olive oil. If I have nothing, I just grab olive oil. You need to make sure olive oil can clog your pores. Mix it with water, and you want to add water with oil anyway, so your skin absorbs it more. And that's as simple as just wetting your hand under the sink when you put on the oil on your face. Getting ready and being beautiful can be easier than you think. Obviously, plastic surgery is off the table. That's not such a thing in Canada. You guys are very weird in America, and you chop yourselves up too much, but so obviously don't do that. And I'm even kind of a Christian Scientist in that way, where I'll go that far with health reasons as well. If you can heal it naturally, but I'm not going to tell you to die. I'm always going to tell you to heal. If you need a lung transplant, get a lung transplant to survive. But if you can heal naturally, try everything in your means to heal naturally in every way, shape, or form. When it comes to having children, tell them to go fuck themselves. And don't listen to anything the doctor says. Try to get a midwife if you can. But in Canada, the midwives are educated in the major school systems, so they have a lot of the programming. They'll try to get you to get vaccines. Absolutely F that. The vaccine system is ridiculous, but I've already said the words, so now our video might be flagged. Lol. But those are obviously you know, you can pretty much guess what we think about those. And you just want to stop poisoning yourself and your mind including. Being a mother is the most important thing. You don't need to be rich. Quit your job, be poor, and raise your children. It's as simple as that. Like this idea that you need this money and you need to do these things. Trust me, I've been there, done that. It was not fun. It was, all I kept seeing was a waste. Your kids will cry anyways after the vacation. They're never satisfied. And they'd rather just have your attention. That's all they actually care about. Please play with me. That's all they actually want.
You know, before I hop into what I was going to do to add on to that, I was going to say kids can be sore winners. Yeah. A lot of the time, sore winners.
But they need us.
They do. You can't be a sore winner in life, all right? Yeah, yes, they do exist, sore winners. It's funny because, like, you know, what a sore winner is they win. Those good things never happened. They never did. So that's what being a sore winner is. You know, it's funny. But nonetheless, also, too, one of the biggest systems we want to balance, too, it's not as much hormonal as it is a neurotransmitter, but this neurotransmitter actually works with our hormones greatly, is dopamine. And I know that Diana has a lot to say about this, too, so I will try to keep it at a certain length so she can talk about this, too. But also, having your dopamine system be healthy. A healthy reward system. You know, we are in a day and age where instant gratification is at our fingertips. Constantly looking at it, and because of this instant gratification, our focus, attention span has gone down. You know, we've lost, you know, the motivations, the drives to excel. Maybe not people like you and I and the people that are listening to this, but we're looking at the greater collective at hand too, who is also part of this, as much as we don't want to admit it. Remember, guys, in this scenario, the entire collective of humanity is kept in mind, not just people like you and I. So that's why a lot of the things are being done the way that they are being done, is because the entire collective is in mind. So ultimately what we see right now is a rigging and a hijacking of our dopamine system. So how do we fix that? How do we keep our dopamine system healthy? You know, how do we do that? Number one, what we do is we stop with the instant gratification behaviors. As much as you guys might hate it, stop looking at shorts. Stop looking at these little tiny things. A lot of these shorts are just...
Especially the split shorts. Please, my God, if you're an adult watching a split short, shake your head. I'm sorry.
Yeah, shake your head. And, you know, stop with the shorts. Stop. We were talking about the jacking off and the pornography before. That is a major thing.
And you wonder why you're not happy with women and you don't love women. Men don't love women because they're not looking at women accurately. And women aren't looking at themselves accurately. Women have been brainwashed to think they need to be a certain way. And it's really simple to fix them, but they need the man to have their head on straight. If a woman came to a man with her head on straight, they'd be instantly fixed.
Absolutely, you know, and to stop with the jerking off pornography. Also, that attracts dark entities too. You don't want to do that. You know, also too, you know, all of this, you know, as much as, you know, drugs, doing hard drugs, alcohol, things like that. Of course, we are both.
If it's not a psychedelic, don't do it.
If it's not a psychedelic,
and if it is a psychedelic, do it with reverence.
With reverence and respect, of course. So I even classify drugs as into two categories. You have compounds that dim and dull your consciousness, and then you have compounds that expand your consciousness. What compounds dim and dull your consciousness? Well, you're looking at alcohol, you're looking at cocaine, you're looking at methamphetamine, you're looking at opiates. And when I'm talking about opiates, I'm talking about the synthetic or the extracted opiates of the opium poppy. The opium poppy is a little bit of a different story in its whole form. But you are also looking at anything that dims and dulls.
Same thing with the cocoa leaf, though. Yeah, cocaine. If you were to drink cocoa leaf tea, that is fine.
That's different. Yes, cocoa leaf tea is different. But you know, anything that has been synthesized or extracted by man or created by man.
But they all backdraw. Like, we tried kava, because kava is supposed to be like a neuro relaxer, but it's an actual supplement. It's a herb you can get. But no, it actually had really detrimental consequences.
Also, too, yes, it is. So there are also natural drugs that will do that.
And the other one, there's kava and
kratom.
Kratom also has. I haven't done the kratom, but I've heard it also has, for my brother and Steven, that it also has detrimental consequences.
It does. Well, you know, so it's like, that's why
you don't want to do anything that has a detrimental consequence. Even if you're doing weed so much you're not cleaning your house and living your life or going.
Exactly. Even weed can fall into that category too if you're not using
I love it.
Cannabis responsibly. Well, I mean, that's one thing I've always given myself a lot of credit for is I've always been a responsible cannabis user. I have. When I was younger, well, never mind.
In adult years.
when I was younger, maybe not so much, but in my adult years, well, you know, here's the thing, you know, being a tradesman and an electrician, you can't really go to work high. You know, it kind of
turns out you can't as an accountant either. I got fired.
Yeah, so
you know.
Can't really go to work high, but. No, I would always, the way I smoke is at the end of the day, after everything's done, after all my responsibilities are taken care of, after, you know, the kids have been fed, we've been fed, Jim's been fed, everybody's been fed, taken care of, everybody's set up.
Jim, my uncle.
Yeah, Jim, Diana's uncle. After everybody's been taken care of and everything's done, kids are asleep, that's when I choose to smoke, because I know that, don't get me wrong.
And he barely smokes, that's peer pressure, and I'm like, do it more.
Oh my goodness. That's because that, you know, well, you know, we step into these phases of life where...
Yeah, because he did more when he got here, and then very quickly he perioded it back because kids.
Well, yeah, obviously, you step into a new phase of life and things adjust, you know, but nonetheless, we'll digress. I enjoyed this tangent, though. That was fun. And, well, I digress. But, yeah, you know, things that expand your mind, such as cannabis, plant medicines, and things like that, those are okay, especially when used in reverence and being used in the right context. And the good thing about plant medicines, though, too, especially the psychedelic ones, you can't really abuse them. And if you do abuse them,
they'll let you know.
Yeah,
let you know.
like
Mother Cannabis, she's very alive. She's very there with you if you're doing it sacredly. If you're not, she kind of gets depressed. Your soul gets depressed, which I did in my younger years. And that's like, it just doesn't go well. But if you do her sacredly, if you talk to her, she wants you to talk to her when you're doing her. She tells you things. She helps you connect to your higher spirit. She can introduce you. Like, she's alive and well and wants to be involved. So you need to involve her. And the psilocybin spirit is very similar. She is alive and well and very, very strict and demanding if you're listening to her, and you should always be listening to her. Where like LSD is actually more of a freeing experience.
Well,
you're not as schooled. There's not as much of a teacher there. You're more on your own.
Well, it's interesting about, so what cannabis does, all right, we're the paranoia, and this is actually, believe it or not, I hate to say it, this is one thing I actually...
Because the paranoia is coming from truth. It's telling you your inner darkness and it wants you to fix it.
Exactly. I also kind of, you know, as much as I dislike to say this, I agree with Joe Rogan on this. It's showing you where you're vulnerable, and that even ties into what you just said.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
So people not wanting to do it because they get so paranoid, or actually, no offense, being spiritually, I don't want to say this word, it feels really insulting, you just don't know how to say it, but spiritually weak, because they don't want to go through that alchemical darkness.
Okay. And yeah, so, no, exactly too. So, and also, you know, it's showing you where you're vulnerable, and like that's a good thing, you know, to know where you are vulnerable. It helps keep things in perspective. So that's why a lot of the times you got to greet the paranoia and the anxiety
and play around with the strands, because a different strand will do something else for you.
Definitely too.
Lower the intensity of the THC.
But, you know, even according to what you were saying, yes, LSD, I've noticed the psychedelics that do not have the plant teachers attached to them kind of put you far out there. That's why doing ayahuasca and doing DMT are two different experiences. Oh, yeah. But they're two different experiences. Sorry, we were looking at directions of where we were going. Debating directions of where we're going. This is why this is Esoteric Caravan. Remember, we're still in a caravan. But
we have a van, but we're not in the van. But we have a van.
well, honestly, it's funny because this was just the name came to me. Like we were talking about it. Those of you who have been with us,
because we want the caravan life, or I do, anyways.
Of course, I do too. So but yeah, it was funny because, you know, Diana and I were very knee deep in. I was very knee deep in. Actually, I wouldn't even say I was all in with BG Cast. She was all in with Transcending Ascension. You know, we got together, we ended up taking a break for a little bit, enjoying our lives together, and we got called back to this.
Well, for me, it's normal. If those that follow me, I always go missing in the winter. I'll usually do more digital videos, but I really try to get away from the tech, and then when you get away from the tech, it's like, there's not much to do if you're not doing it yourself.
Exactly. So, but like, you know, nonetheless, back to what we're talking about. Yes, dopamine system healing. I'm holding the thread of the combo. Don't worry, I got us, guys. We like to tangent sometimes, but I will always bring it back. But yes, no, fixing your dopamine system, stay off the hard drugs. Do things that are delayed gratification.
Food's a drug. McDonald's is a drug.
Food's a drug too. Stay away from fast
KFC's
foods.
a drug.
Oh, definitely.
Pizza's a drug. Lots of cheese and gluten. You don't even need to add toxins to pizza, because just simply cheese and gluten mixed together is a bomb of a drug. That's why you feel amazing after it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So guys, really it's also helping our dopamine system and reprogramming our dopamine system.
And to the dopamine system, like, you got to watch overdoing it. That's what my thing was. Dawn and I did a show on it, and it's ADHD, neurodivergent people. Most starseeds are ADHD, neurodivergent, and we have this constant lack of dopamine. Like, we actually don't have the same dopamine system as your atypical NPC or type people. And so for us, getting dopamine is necessary. It is something that we need to plan and plot out, and that's why you set it up that way for yourself. Like, if you need to play video games, if you need to do these things, that's fine, but do it in a way where the dopamine is a reward. It's not just a continuous system that's not a payoff, because then you're going to train your system to be paid off for nothing, and guess what? You become nothing.
And also, speaking of correcting, I actually have a supplement regimen that I could talk with you guys about that can help you if you're trying to repair.
And we do two different ones that we both like. So
yes, yeah, it's very interesting. So the number one thing I'm going to say is, if you're trying to help your dopamine system, especially if you're neurodivergent too, and you don't have as much dopamine as the average person, these supplements are very much going to help you. The first one I'm going to call it is the white velvet bean. Yes, the white velvet bean. It's actually very affordable, readily available. You can get a huge big bag of it for around $27 on Amazon. What is in the white velvet bean is actually levodopa, L-dopa. So that is 3,4-dihydroxyphenylalanine. It is actually an amino acid form. So levodopa, so when we talk about amino acid compounds, we have the R and the L. So what the L stands for is the left helix, and the R stands for the right helix. So L-dopa, levodopa, is actually a dopamine precursor that is found naturally in the white velvet bean extract. And what this will do is it will help fix your brain's dopamine system naturally, not through doing, dopamine seeking behaviors. In fact, one of the things I've noticed about using the white velvet bean, the thing about us being, especially with Diana and I, autistic and ADHD, odd ADHD, we cannot do things that are not fun to us. We freaking hate it. Like, we hate it.
But we do like to be organized. Like, so we have ADHD, yet we also have autism. So we want the organization of autism, but the fun of ADHD.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
We deal with the cards we're dealt on that. But one thing I noticed while taking the white velvet bean, the stuff that's not fun, I can kind of push myself through and do it better. I've noticed that. There's some of us too, like, we can't bring ourselves to do it if it's not fun. We're like, fuck it. We'll post, what was it? That we saw this meme one time, you and I, that thing I postponed for 2 years and finally 2 minutes to do. Like, yeah, so like that's what it's like. That's what it is, So like, but like, the thing with the white velvet bean is it's helped me be able to push through those not so fun things and actually achieve them and do them without having too much difficulty. The other one I would recommend taking is actually the active version of vitamin B6. It is called P5P. And for those of you who don't know, vitamin B6 is actually directly correlated with dopamine production in the body and in the brain. So by giving your body more of this P5P, this active version of vitamin B6, what's going to happen is you are going to have more dopamine creation in the body. So what these are two really, and also ashwagandha. Let's not forget ashwagandha.
But it can make you tired. It's amazing, and L-thiazine is fantastic.
L-theanine. L-thiazine.
Yeah, I'm not good with the terms. Yeah. And I take it every day. But yeah, no, it's great for calming you down. They can make you a little tired. L-thiazine. Isn't as bad on its own, but ashwagandha I find is. And then him and his white bean, I find I crash out on it. Like, it does work great, but it wears off for me and I crash. And I don't like that, and I'm not good at taking stuff regularly where he's better at it. I like taurine. Like, so taurine's the stuff in Red Bull. That's why I love Red Bull. So it's taurine, and Red Bull's also filled with your B vitamins, right? So think about it. So just get that stuff instead. Taurine, B vitamins. And then I found, looking at just searching L-tyrosine. L-tyrosine. And that is very much like taurine. It just turns the brain on. And those don't have crashes. Taurine and L-tyrosine.
L-theanine.
No, L-tyrosine.
L-tyrosine.
L-tyrosine do not have crashes, so you don't crash on them. They'll just naturally wear off. I mean, you start to feel a little tired only because they've worn off. Where I find the red velvet being, I actually crash. But Steven doesn't have that problem because he just carries it with him.
Just mess around with it to see what's right for you.
They're all natural and good,
what works for you. Okay, we're making a quick stop, so we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back and here in just a sec. And we are back from our stop. I had to stop at the store real quick, but now we are back on the road in this Esoteric Caravan. So one of the things I want to talk with you about, Diana, and I'm sure you completely agree with me on this, because we've talked about it together before, is one of the things we've been noticing is as the energy of this ascension increases, we talked about the subconscious aspect of awakening in our first episode. We're starting to see more and more of that. What I mean by that is, have you noticed people everywhere are acting a little bit unhinged?
Yes, well, all for one and one for all, because at the ultimate end of it, I think we do all come out to be the same soul, and inside that there's divisions. So there is an overarching same soul to every single human that's waking up. And then they say the entire universe is waking up to a higher degree. They're all ascending to a higher degree. It's why they say Pleiadians and Arcturians and all such are here to help us, because it's ascension time for everybody, and it's time for everybody to pull up their boots, sort of deal. And then so we do have the regular collective now awakening as well. And I even used to say it on my show all the time, like I desperately felt, it's one of the main reasons I started it, that they needed to wake up more to make it easier for us. Because things in our lives, even if we weren't actively being traumatized, are still pretty tormenting, given that we just all have this innate sense that there's something wrong with the world and it desperately needs to be fixed. Where other people had that more shut off, they were born without that. Yet still, we find, regardless, everybody being shaken to a degree to see clearer. And they have had many events come forward to try to show them that their world is false, that it's fake, that it's actually all orchestrated to get them to think certain ways. Like, there is so much evidence that just pretty much every single political event has been orchestrated for your own mental game, because it's all a mental playing field. It's all a game. So we do see the people waking up. However, we still also see them watching the news. So their journey, I would like to say, is up to them. It is ultimately up to them. We do help them in the fact that when we integrate, when we ascend, when we do that alchemical work, we naturally are helping them, because a lot of them get to wake up without any of the work. And I know that can sound, unhappy, but a lot of them are still going to be living a more 3D life after life after life, where a lot of us might have already been done. Like Sarah Alcaldi herself said that, no, was it Sarah? It doesn't matter. That it was Sarah. When you come in with natural empathy, remember the original term for those of us that have been waking for a long time. Empath is all there was once upon a time to call ourselves and to see that we were this and things like that. And the reason why is because you're here to integrate in the energy, and it helps everybody else. But yes, they are going crazy. Can we help them? Yeah, by doing the work ourselves and doing it more. Can we help them help themselves? Not really.
Absolutely. And, because these are just some experiences I've had. And so this is what I have to say to all the black pillars out there when it comes to this.
You're ruining it for the rest of us, and you're making it harder for everybody, because you guys know better, and it's worse than the NPCs to a lot of degrees.
And you guys aren't even opening your eyes to the wonderful things that are happening.
Because if you don't have the soul, what's the point? Think about it. If all the conspiracies exist and the parts of the soul do not, then what is the point? What is the point?
Exactly. So, no, like I said, well, this is the problem, because there's even black pillars in the spiritual community. That think everybody walking around is an NPC and, all this shit. But no, honestly, you're not even opening your eyes to the very wonderful things that are in front of you. Even for me and my journey, I for what I do a lot of contracting work. I still do electrical, but I've moved into more of doing more general contracting field at this point in time. And a few of my clients, you know, who have happened to just be older women are actually awakened. It was so interesting. I have one woman who I was talking with who works in an undisclosed location here in Ontario, who lives at an undisclosed location. And she's actually, for being a Canadian, she's an avid Trump supporter, which was interesting. And she was talking to me about conspiracies the whole time while I was working there, which I was actually really delighted to hear, because you know my opinion on the conspiracies, guys. Yes, they're true, but that's not the point. But still, it's nice to see someone, she was around the age of 65.
Well, because if you truly see the conspiracies, you see that they're just tricking us. You see that they have no power, and they've just been controlling your mind, and you're the one who actually has power, and us as a collective. So if everybody's doing this and it's so bad, and you actually think it's that bad, then do something about it. Because that's what I did. I saw where the problem lay. It laid actually in exactly what Carl Jung thought. People needed more therapy, and they needed to come to know thyself deeper and truer, and that required therapy. So that's the avenue I picked to help people. So where could you help someone? If you're a black pillar just talking about how awful things are, where can you fix it? You are God. We're all God. The all is mine and you are God. So where can you fix it? Because everybody has a point that they can fix it in. And Steven's talking about his. He goes right in and helps people, and people just flock to him. It's wild.
Well, thank you, sweetie. But so she's 65. She's a Canadian Trump supporter. She's in the conspiracies. We're talking about how the man-made tick problem has evolved out here. And but then also too, the lady I was working for yesterday comes up. You know, we started talking about, because you guys know me, I'm very much about my health and fitness, very much about living a healthy life, healthy body. We were talking about that, and then it evolved into her asking me, like, "Oh, and you didn't take the COVID vax, did you?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." And then she goes, the conversation evolved even more, and she goes, "I believe that God is the source of all consciousness and creation in this universe, and it's above a little old man in the sky." And I'm like looking at this 70-year-old woman who's talking to me, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is awesome. And I was like seeing this. So this is what I mean, guys. There's the one thing, and I've talked about this on my show, Diana has talked about this on her show previously before, the one thing even we in the spiritual community do is we're trained to look at the negative. We are so conditioned, so heavily, and that's what humans do, and I've even used this analogy before. So let's say you're on the way to work, right? Some guy flips you off, right? And then you go into work and you tell your coworkers, you're like, "Man, you never guess what happened to me today. I was on the way to work, some dude flipped me off," and everybody's gonna rally around you and go, "Yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy for flipping you off." There's gonna be excitement. There's gonna be adrenaline behind the rallying of the negative thing. Okay, but then let's flip the situation. Let's say that guy, instead of flipping you off, comes up and just randomly gives you $100. Right? You go into work and you're like, "Hey guys, guess what? Like, the most awesome thing has happened to me today. Some guy just randomly gave me $100 and I really needed it." You're gonna get none of the same excitement, none of the same rallying.
Must be nice to be you.
Yeah, it must be nice to be you.
And you're probably gonna learn to stop telling people the good news.
Yeah, you're gonna start greeting it. So this is the thing. Humans are conditioned to look at negativity before positivity. We're conditioned to thrive in negativity. This has happened in our time of being here. So one of the biggest things you have to do in order to truly see the wonderful, amazing things that are actually happening around you is to condition yourself to actually look at the positive. Exactly what I'm talking about. I used to be like that. I used to see everything as negative, doom, gloom, until I actually took a step back and I opened my eyes and was like, wow, there's a lot of really good things. Dude, look at how, even though these people might not have the bigger picture in their minds of everything that's happening, look at how many people who are getting into healthy eating. Look at how many people who are getting into alternative medicines. Look at how many people who are getting into self-sustainability, getting land, growing their own food.
Homesteading is a big
Homesteading. Look at how many people are getting into meditation and yoga. Look at how many people are getting into these different spiritual practices. Okay, this is the byproduct of our work, everybody.
It filters down, and that's the way we can help.
Exactly. This is the byproduct of our work. The way you can help is to be the change and create the change that you wish to see in this world. It's not that difficult. You just take action. It's intentional action. And this is, like I was saying in our episode yesterday, guys, us who are consciously going through this awakening, we are the energetic beacons. We are the ones taking the higher frequencies and assimilating them down into this reality.
Speaking truth is number one about that. If you need to say no, say no. If you need to say yes, say yes. Answer to your truth, not the truth that's been dictated to you.
Absolutely. Okay, and we're assimilating these higher frequencies down here into our collective consciousness. So while yes, we are almost the energetic focal points of this, the ones who are consciously going through it, our work is helping on the subconscious level of the collective consciousness as well, that is contributing to these changes we see in the greater collective. So that's the one thing I definitely want to say in this aspect, is to stop looking at the negative. We're so trained, even I do it too. It's funny because Diana says I have American PTSD.
Yeah, because he thought he had to fight everybody every 5 minutes. And I was about to say that as one of my points. Because all of you are safer than you realize. However, in America, it is not as safe as you guys are. Like, you guys take it for... You're a first world country, yet you don't live like that. Like, the fights Stephen thought he would have to have here are ridiculous. And he lived in a nice state of Colorado. Like, that's one of your better states, I thought. Like, it's alarming how much violence you guys have in your country, and you take for granted that that's normal. It's not. It is not normal. You can also speak to our friend Samantha in England. She will tell you that's not normal there as well. And I know you guys think we have problems, but Stephen's been here. You can see that there's no tyranny. There's no tyranny. We're very free. They care about our safety, and there's a lot of bureaucracy around our safety. But other than that, I mean, it's very safe. It is very safe here, though. So you know what it does to your soul when you're actually physically safe? When your soul is actually physically safe, you can be a soul. It takes away the ammo from that reptile brain. Your reptile brain has been surviving for you for thousands and thousands of years. And James True, who Steve and I both talked to, is a big proponent of teaching us about the lizard brain, if you care to know more about it, and the way that it affects us as a living creature inside of us today. But if you take away its arguments for why it has to be the way it is, if you convince it you are safe, because you are safe. Your government say no, because they're not winning. They're losing this war. There's no agenda, blah, 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 because they keep just failing over and over and over again. And if they didn't win with COVID, they would actually have to get guns on the street to win at this point, which they're not going to do. They can't, because it would be obvious they're the bad guys. We film everything. Talking about cameras on the street, well, there already is cameras on the street, and we are those cameras. So we are safe, especially us in North America. Like, there's things going on in Europe because they are so close to the Middle East, and that's blowing up. So they're getting the backlash of it. We are a new world that was recently unfrozen. When you think about how the world works, it's just been birthed again. Canada especially is brand new, and it's very empty. So if you're an American and you want safety, it's here, and we're right beside you.
Here's the thing I wanted to, before, as we're getting closer to our destination, I want to leave with everybody. And I was actually watching somebody talk about this the other day, and they were calling it like some kind of brainwashing mentality. I want you guys to think of it from this perspective, and this is what I'm going to leave you guys with, okay? We have technically already won this. All right, we've already won this, okay? Does that mean we stop doing the work? And does that mean we stop creating the world that we wish to see? No, we don't stop, okay? This should be the fuel for the fire to do that even more. We've already won this. The reason why it can't appear that way, though,
it's because there's people still realizing it. When you win, you still need to push until the battle's over.
Absolutely.
Like, there's a point where the other side has more troops and you know it's over. However, if the side with more troops, just like the rabbit and the turtle, if the side with more troops gets lazy and realizes, that's one, I'm just going to sit back and relax. Well, guess what? The winning might not be guaranteed anymore. So it's not to that point where we're sitting and all our enemies are defeated and on the ground. No. And in this situation, we don't want our enemies on the ground. We actually want to open our enemies' hearts. That is the only answer to this, is to get through to their hearts, or they have to die off naturally. We can't be the ones to do it. Violence on our end is never the answer. They use that to just instill more violence and more excuses, which they're really doing in America with like the riots you guys have that are paid and bricks put out on the street just so you guys can fight more. I
saw that firsthand in Colorado, so before anybody wants to say that, yes, they loaded up the Civic Center Park with bricks before the George Floyd protests, and they weren't building anything there. They were used to throw at law enforcement officers for the show. But nonetheless, again, one thing I'll leave you guys with is, yes, we've already won. That doesn't mean we stop the work. That doesn't mean we get lazy. We keep pushing forward. And the reason why it has not appeared that way to us, because remember this, everybody. Whoever or whatever's hands this is all in has the whole collective of humanity in mind. It is not just people like you and I, or me and Diana, okay? To basically come out, all right, it's the equivalent of somebody who's been let's say somebody's been scamming you for 50 years. And do you really expect them to come out and tell you that they've been scamming you?
No, it's up to you to walk away from that insurance broker that's been scamming you. It's up to you to walk away.
So,
you have to just say no. And when enough people say no, and it doesn't even need to be everybody, it just needs to be people loud enough. If you are any kind of a lawyer or know a lawyer, that's the superpower way to go nowadays, to make sure that you're covered, because they have no grounds for what they're doing. They're brainwashing you into thinking that they have this power, but they do not. And it's like a child, which I'm very familiar with. Children get these delusions that they deserve all these things, that it's not for their better good. And it's the same thing with the government. It's not for their better good. Just realize this in your own heart. You're not helping Bill Gates by giving into his plan. He's still a human and he still has a good soul. Even the ones that are trying for that over 95% evil, that service to self-life, eventually they're going to have to turn around and go back. So regardless of whatever you want to say, you're helping them by not helping them. You're helping every ignorant person when you tell them they're ignorant. You're helping every mean person when you tell them they're mean. Humans do not want to be mean. The soul that resides within you cries to be good, and it's up to you to make sure that that happens. Make it so.
I completely agree. Well, all right, everybody, we have reached our destination. I want to thank you for joining us on another episode of Esoteric Caravan. We will be back soon with some more goodness and great conversation for you. And other than that,
thanks
have a
everyone.
wonderful day,
Have
and
a great
thank
day.
you.
We'll see you soon.